Go ahead, Nilanjana.
Hey guys, welcome to day 3 of Razorpay D2C Sparkx. I can see a lot of you are streaming in. We have a power pack day planned for you, a day of learning and unlocking insane growth hacks with our experts, along the way with some technical glitches. That's part of the deal now. Today we want to thank everyone who's been part of Sparkx for the last few days. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you run a D2C brand, we want to show us thanks on social media. So if you run a D2C brand or you know somebody who runs one, or is there a favorite D2C brand that you know, please do drop it in the comments. We'll be giving you a shout out through the day. We're kicking off today with some heads of business and key marketing leaders from some of India's favorite D2C brands. I'll hand it over to Shubham to get
All
it
right.
going.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Shubham. I'm part of the marketing team at Razorpay. I'm super excited to welcome all of you to this fireside chat. Our topic today is cracking the festive marketing code, insider tips revealed. And we have a stellar panel of experts ready to share their valuable insights. Now, let's start with meeting our panelists. We have Sudeep Bansal, VP Growth for Wow Skin Science. He has been the driving force behind the growth at Wow Skin. Prior to this, Sudeep contributed to the marketing success of Swiggy and OLX Group. Hi, Sudeep.
Hi guys, hi Shubham. Excited to be here.
Next up, we have Vakul Agarwal, VP Growth at Licious. He's leading all the growth initiatives at Licious, one of the fastest growing players in the food and beverage category. His previous role at Blinkit speaks volumes about his expertise in driving growth.
Hi guys.
Then we have Pratik Mukherjee here, Head of Business at House of Masaba. In his current role, Pratik is driving business growth for House of Masaba's beauty category. Prior to this, he has been with brands like Honasa Consumers, which is parent of Mama Earth, and also Urban Company. Alongside, we also have Vikas Chawla, co-founder and director, Social Beat. Vikas is an entrepreneur, growth consultant, and a published author. Safe to say, he has done it all. With that, I'll also introduce our very own Dushyant Panda, Head of Marketing at Razorpay. He'll be driving the conversation today. Now, he's my boss, so I have to say the nice things about him. But jokes apart, with his profound expertise in marketing and strategy, Dushyant brings in quite an insightful perspective on business growth for D2C businesses. Now, with that, I welcome all the panelists.
Thank
Now,
you, Shubham.
before we get started, I have a few poll questions for our attendees. We have been having quite some fun with the poll questions over the last few days. Let's see how many questions do all of you get right. First question popping up on your screen now. Over the last few years, this brand has been promoting local businesses across India with their pin code level personalized campaigns. Last year, they took an extra step and got Shah Rukh Khan promoting local businesses in your neighborhood during Diwali. Can you guess which brand is this? Your options are Thumbs Up, Byju's, Cadbury, Hyundai. I think a lot of people are leaning on Byju's. I'm not sure why, but I get it. I get it. It's quite a big name. But all right, we have enough responses already. With that, I'll announce the answer. It was Cadbury. Cadbury's celebration was the product, and this was promoted by Shah Rukh Khan himself. You could see Shah Rukh Khan talking about the individual local stores in your neighborhood, and that brought a lot of joy to these store owners. That Shah Rukh Khan himself went out and said their brand's name and store's name and promoted them. That was quite a success for the brand as well. Now, moving on, I have one more question. So, this is on your screen now. This brand successfully addressed a common consumer behavior in India using the word thanda, meaning cold, with their campaign slogan Thanda Matlab Dash. Now fill in the blank with the brand name. Was it Imperial Blue? Was it Kingfisher? Or Amul Lassi? Or was it Coca Cola? My colleague Ramya here is getting it all wrong, unfortunately, unlike all of you. Most of you have gotten it right. All right. That's right. The
This should
brand
be
is
a slam dunk, I feel. This one, I think I could see the
exactly.
smile on everyone's faces. This should be.
Exactly. That's what you would think, but my colleague Ramya here has gotten it wrong. I'm very disappointed with her. The right answer, as most of you got it, is Coca-Cola. This is some solid ad recall right here. After all these years, we still remember Thanda Matlab Coca-Cola. Now, one last question before we get started with the panel. I know you're dying to hear from the panelists, but one last question. Let's see if you get this one right. Which among the following is the longest running marketing campaign of all time? Options are the Marlboro Man campaign, Nike Just Do It campaign, Amul Butterwell campaign, or Parley's Melody campaign. You remember Parley's campaign, Melody Khao Khud Jaan Jao. All right. A lot of love for the homegrown brand here. Most of you have gotten it right. That's right. It's Amul's Buttergirl campaign. This has been running since last 5 decades now. It started in 1967 and it's more than 50 years now, and it's still one of the most loved campaigns in India. Awesome. A lot of folks have responded. That was some great interaction with all of you. Now, with that, folks, over the next hour, our esteemed panelists will unveil the strategies and tactics that will help you in festive marketing. So, without further ado, let's dive into this conversation and unearth the marketing gems that will empower your business to shine in this festive season. With that, over to you, Dushyant.
Thanks, Shubham. That was nice. Sudeep, Vakul, Pratik, Vikas, thank you so much for coming together to do this. Really great to have all of you. Just to give you a lot of context, during D2C festive season, we get a lot of requests from D2C brands about marketing. And of course, so we understand more than everyone else the pain and pressure of doing it. We're really excited to get all of you together to do this session, and I'll dive right into it. The first question we get asked this time is, and I'll phrase it for you differently, right? If you were taking over a D2C brand today, and there is 4 weeks, 8 weeks to go for the festive season, it's the most critical time for the brands to ensure that they get the share of revenue that comes from festive. What are the 1 or 2 things you would do in the next 4 or 8 weeks that will ensure that success is guaranteed? Sudeep, maybe starting with you.
Yeah, I'll give a shot at that. I think festive is a time where there's a lot of intent-based buying that happens. People generally are in the mood to kind of splurge on themselves, splurge for their loved ones as well, right? So one strategy that seemed to work well for us is specific festive packs, right? Curated packs for festivals. Like for example, we just leverage Rakhi as an occasion where we have a gift pack of 4 perfumes on the brand Body Cupid, and we targeted sisters buying for their brothers for Rakhi gifts, and it sold like hotcakes, right? So specific curation of packs that you want to sell for festives can be one big one. It requires thinking, it requires time, because to make that pack, to package it like a gift, to get it to all the warehouses, to supply it to the platforms, it takes time. There's a 6 to 8 week lead time on anything like that if you want to do. To start for festive 6 to 8 weeks before, then I think that would be one different thing that you can offer apart from the regular portfolio.
Nice. That's very interesting. Thanks, Sudeep. Vakul, your take on this?
So for us, because we are in the space of eating, right, and hence parties usually go on a higher side, right? You would call your colleagues, probably friends and families, and probably have a nice setting at home. And hence, for us, pre-order becomes really important, right? Because we are a fresh product, we need to be very diligent in terms of how much do we supply and how much is the demand. So that becomes a very important job for us to be done. The other thing is, because of festives and whenever there is an eating occasion, we see a natural spike. Now, for us, it becomes really important to deliver the right experience because we control the end-to-end experience, be it in terms of on-app experience or the on-ground experience, which is the delivery experience, right? Because with food, you have little margin to go wrong, right? Because there are guests coming over your home, and hence the delivery experience needs to be super special as well. Right. So these are few things that we keep at the core, that the experience should be rock solid. And because we are a repeat business, it's not like we just want to acquire users. It becomes very critical for us to ensure that the overall experience is in fact much more better when we get more demand, rather than taking a hit on experience just to cater to the demand.
It's a tough challenge, no? It's always inversely proportional demand and experience, but I think that's a unique, tough challenge.
Yeah.
Because you work with, a bunch of D2C brands, helping them out. I'm sure you would be getting a bunch of requests from all of them during this time, a lot of pressure. What have you seen work during festive? What are the one or two things that you think you would suggest to all D2C brands watching us?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the first one would be actually what Sudeep said, right? Figuring out the product, the experience. What is it that you're going to do differently this festive? It could be a launch. It could be figuring out what are you going to do, which can help you get more eyeballs, because it's a competitive landscape during that 6 to 8 weeks, right? So you want to make sure you stand out. So figuring out the products, the categories is one part of the puzzle. The second is often figuring out the content creation and making sure it's ready well in advance, right? Because you have to have good stories to tell during that period. And that could be a combination of different creative assets in terms of brand films, influencer collabs, or whatever else you need to put together. I think that piece, if you do it in the last minute, you're not going to get that, the quality and the depth required. So I think being able to keep that content bank in place for that busy period is definitely part of the mix. And what we often do is not really do too much big bang campaigns just before Diwali, because it's you're going to get lost, right? So we try and do it a bit ahead, keep those audiences in the mid funnel, and then sort of retarget them towards the end.
That's interesting. Got it. Pratik, over to you. What do you think works?
I think I'll speak more for the 0 to 1 brands. That's what I have been doing in the last few years. And first is very important to get the job to be done right. And I think for a 0 to 1 brand, if I have to do one thing during this period is acquisition, because this is the best period where a lot of high intent traffic, be it beauty, fashion, any category, will be trying you out for the first time. And now once that is clear, then you break it down into a go-to-market strategy. What's the role of Meta? What's the role of Google? And similarly, what's the role of affiliates or other channels? And then the timing of it, as Vikas already said, I think for a young brand, as we all know, the CPMs go through the roof as the e-com giants will get going next month, right? So I think it's important to go early. That's what I tend to do. I very clearly remember last year, we did our main acquisition campaign in September, so that we can reap the benefits of the second transaction or third in the e-com cycle of October and November. That's one. And second is, I think the whole aspect of communication, which also Vikas highlighted, right? It's very important to have a distinct tone of voice in which you communicate. You may be a small brand only doing influencer, no need to do a big RNF and all of those campaigns at an early stage. But whatever you do, be very distinct, clear, be it your internal team or working with an agency partner. Get your communication right, so that even if you spend a few lakhs, that registers that this is your brand, this is your brand tonality, and then you can build on it post festive as well. So yeah, that's my learning so far.
Do you want to deep dive into what you said and Vikas said earlier, right? One of the key asks, we do a bunch of these sessions where we talk about marketing with our brands or our partner companies. And what they keep on telling us is this Diwali is a huge spend season and we just don't have that money, and you touched upon it. So one of the things both of you suggested was that why don't you acquire earlier? But during those 8 weeks where you obviously don't have the money to outspend, say, the biggest companies in the world, where there is so much of advertising happening everywhere, and a young brand feels that I can't break the clutter. What should brand managers, what should brands, what should growth teams do to ensure that there is some sort of a remembrance, some sort of a memory, some sort of a trial during festive that happens? What should young brands do to make that change in the next few weeks? Well, probably Pratik, starting with you this time.
Yeah, I think there are, first of all, no right answers here. And I have figured that the answer or the playbook of company 1 doesn't apply to company 2 and so on.
Sure.
But one thing which I've realized is it has to start with understanding of your P&L. How much can you stretch? What's your budget like? What's therefore your ROAS target? What's your CAC target, right? getting that in place, aligning it with the founder or management or whoever you're working with. Then you know the guardrails as a starting point, that this is what I can afford, this is what I can't afford. Now, once that is in place, you start making a plan, hopefully much in advance for the festive season, and concentrating your inputs is what has worked for me. So, for example, many times I hear conversation that during the festive, let's push the laggards. That doesn't happen. Trust me when I say that. It's the time when actually your best performing products, which are well established, even if it's established for a year only, not 10 years, those will continue to do well. So even if you have 100 rupees to spend after the PNL working, concentrate that on those 10% of your portfolio, which gets you 80% revenue or 80% acquisition. Then suddenly the young brand manager won't feel that I don't have budget. They will suddenly feel that for that variant, they have a lot of budget. So that I think is a very important thing. Don't try to do something for everything, or don't try to become something for every consumer, but just concentrate the efforts, focus on those top 10 products, build your funnels on that, be it the performance funnel and the influencer funnel, depending on your budget. Second is you be targeted in terms of your reach also and your campaigns. You don't need to probably, if you have limited budget, reach out to the entire country. You have enough data thanks to the D2C ecosystem, that which geographies are your biggest contributors, right? Make that your universe. Put multiple filters, beauty cuts, fashion cuts, whatever category you play. So suddenly the brand manager will again feel that my playground is not that small as I thought it is, right? And then you can also look at a tiered strategy. You mentioned, Dushyant, 8 weeks, right? Now, one is to go head on, put your best discounts and offers in week 1, week 2, and then gradually reduce it over the course, closer to Diwali. The other approach is, go start small, start nimble, which is the whole cockroach approach, right? You start small, let the others spend first, and then when the other brands run out, then you dial it up. Like I said, no right or wrong answers, but these 3-4 things will make the brand manager feel that they're not getting lost or they don't have enough budget. So those are my 2-3 tips to any young brand manager watching this.
Thanks, Pratik. That really helps. Thank you so much. Vikas?
Yeah, I think similar thoughts. I think one would be definitely don't use that period to experiment new things, right? Like Pratik was saying, go sharp, right? So whatever experimentation you want to do across categories, products, creatives, content, new campaign types, Google's launching search gen, those are not experiments you want to run too close to festive, right? You can do it right away at the moment, but
Right.
stop those maybe a month before festive and use that 4-5 weeks to really exploit whatever has worked or whatever is working, right? And go sharper in terms of products and categories. I think the second part we also try and do is build audiences at the right time. So being able to build audiences across the funnel where you're able to do it before the CPMs rise, so that you have a large enough remarketing pool to go after for that 4-5 week period, because that's when you want to go after people who know your brand and have either interacted with you or some sort of interaction that's happened, right? So that's not a time to do net new acquisition largely. In
Right.
fact, if there are campaigns with net new acquisition goals, maybe those are times to maybe scale it down a little bit, because you're not going to be able to compete with the larger brands and the budgets out there.
Understood. Vakul, what about you?
I think Pratik briefly discussed that, right? If you are entering a peak season for your business, and if it is 6 or 8 weeks away, you need to plan it much more in advance, right? If it is 6 or 8 weeks away, then definitely you are already late. And the other thing is, there are 2 or 3 business objectives that we need to define. It could be acquisition, it could be consumption, right? So you need to be very sure what you want to do during that season, right? For us, we had launched our program, which is our membership program, in August, just to meet the November and December cycle, so that we have enough subscribers by then, which will reap benefit. So I think the planning of the spike that you'll see for your business needs to be at least 6 months in advance, and you need to be very sure of the objective, is what I would say first, and then all the planning can happen.
Sure. Understood. Sudeep?
Yeah, I think most of the points here are already spoken of. But just to reiterate, I think making a choice is important, and it's hard. Like what Pratik was also mentioning, like what products you will advertise on, because the temptation is really big. everyone's spending money, you would want to spend money, you'd want to go sell your entire catalog, all products, etc., etc. The right strategy, as per me, also is to kind of choose what you want to do, where you want to do, how you want to do, right? And that's easier said than done. Extremely difficult to kind of make those choices because there's just too much excitement in the system, both from a consumer lens, also internally in the system. Your respective companies, there'll be a lot of push and pull happening. यार ये भी कर देते हैं, वो भी कर देते हैं, ये क्यों छोड़ें, वो क्यों छोड़ें, and making decisions is tough. So you have to prioritize. And some wise men said that if it doesn't hurt, it's not prioritization. Right? So when you prioritize, you'll obviously rub some people off, some departments off, saying कि यार ये क्यों नहीं कर रहे हो तुम. But I think for festive, it's important to kind of pick your battles and plan in advance, and then go hard behind those battles. And budgets don't matter because if you're prioritizing, then you know what geography, what product, da da da. So even if you are small, it works, right? And the second point is, the timing is important, right? There's also a lot of temptation to do it on the day of the event or when everybody else is doing it.
Sure.
Like, there is no way in the world that you will get traffic if you are running a campaign on the Big Billion Day. It is Flipkart, it is Amazon. You don't have the money. Please don't go head on those days. Plan ahead. Do it before or do it after, whatever works. But don't do it on those days because you'll just burn through the money. You'll not get the conversion. You'll not be able to discount, or you just have to discount crazy amounts, right? So lie low, choose your windows, choose your battles, and then in fact use those platforms to have the right product curation on those platforms instead of getting traffic onto D2C in those days.
Yep.
Right? So some of those things are things that we think work.
Yeah, to all of you, I think I love this because I think this tells everyone that to some questions there are no easy answers, right?
Yeah.
Like on that day, there is no way you can spend and outspend anyone and get traffic. I think some answers are hard, and if you're planning to do that, better save that money and use it for time after that. But I think it really helps. A couple of things, right? Taking from all of you, for example, Sudeep, you started off by talking about how product packs, and Vakul, you talked about party packs, and how the product contextualization to festive is so important in success. And Pratik, you talked about how you have to focus on products. One question on top of that, on top of all of this, is a lot of questions are asked around what is the role of offers and discounts. And like prioritization, like timing, there is the tendency for young brands to go overboard, saying that if nothing saves me, this can. What are your viewpoints? We understand it's important. We understand that there is a feel around the air. But how should brands think about this? Like, where should they draw the line? Pratik, you talked about looking at the P&L first and figuring out where your constraints lie. But if you had to advise D2C brands on how to think about offers and discounts, how would you start? Vikas, starting with you this time.
Yeah, I think this is often things that the brand does, but I can share some insights on what we've seen. I think one is you need to know where your P&L is, like Pratik said, right? How much can you stretch? How much can you do? And at the same time, figuring out how much is the marketplace really going to go down to, right? But because you cannot always match that price. And there are times, and actually over the next few weeks, there are going to be multiple sales on marketplaces. So being able to match that price itself is a challenge for many brands because you will not make money if you match the price. So the question is, how much do you want to do and how do you do that? So the way brands typically do this is to figure out if there are hero products which better sold on marketplace itself because there the user is going to get the best price, but then figure out other packs, other combos or specific products where you can actually still do a good offer. That makes sense. And I think this is the period where consumers do expect offers, right? So maybe even if you don't do offers every week or every 2 weeks, this is a period you definitely do want to try it out because other brands are doing it. So if all things being equal, you have to be there in that game as well.
Sure. Done. Thank you. Sudeep, your viewpoint on this?
Yeah, I think offers are important. Like let's face it, there is just too much noise around offers, good, bad, whatever. The reality is at the stage where Indian e-commerce is right now is in large parts offer driven. People want offers. It's a need. the social need to shop on e-commerce, right? Without discounting, even I don't feel like buying anything, even if I know the brand is good and everything is good, right? So offers have a place and role to play, and plus because it's also category specific, right? Some categories are more offer driven, some are less offer driven.
Sure.
So, for example, for Licious, probably there would be not be much too many offers essentially, but for beauty as an industry, offers are the mainstay. Like it's a always on perennial thing. So if everybody is participating in offers and your brand is not, you'll just lose out on relevance because customers want that, right? So you can't be tone deaf saying I'll not do offers. You have to do offers. Now, how do you do it? Is again a matter of choice, right? Like you have a portfolio of products. Some products have higher margin, some products have lower margin. You can either create that game that some products are deeply discounted, like what fashion does, right? Last season items are deeply discounted, fresh stock is not deeply discounted, right? So you can do that kind of a portfolio play. You can do special curations and packages which provide a better value for the customer, right? That could be another one. The third thing is it need not be offer as we typically understand it, right? Which means like a 100 rupee product might not sell for 50 rupees. You might not want to do that. What you'd rather want to do is let the customer buy for 100 but give him value for 150, right? So Indian customers are value conscious,
Right.
while we say that we all want discounts and deals, but it's an interesting thing to know that if there is enough value on the table, then there is enough money to be extracted from Indian customers.
Sure.
Right, so you give them deals, you give them your products which are free on top. That's one of the reasons for people to shop from D2C brands.
Right.
Price discounting, let marketplaces play that game. Right, you can't out discount Amazon even on your products at times.
Right.
Because they'll put in the money, and if you put in the same money on D2C, then you lose money, right?
Sure.
On D2C, you give them better value and not better discounts necessarily. Important to differentiate between the two.
That's a very nice insight, actually. Good.
Yeah. So those are the things essentially. But to the point that is it important? Yes, like absolutely. People look for value. They have to get value. Everybody likes a freebie. What if you throw an extra face mask or a face serum with the products? It's just a delighter for the customers. And so you can do that.
Thanks, Sudeep. Vakul, actually, I'll pick up from what Sudeep said. What do you think in your category? Have you seen offers play a role, or is it?
Yes, the offers do definitely play a role. The only thing, or the only submission is, at least it can't be a strategic growth lever, is what I would say. Right? You need to do it if multiple players in the category are doing it. You need to be very sure whether for you it'll be a strategic growth lever for long term. So that needs to be answered by the leadership team or by the founders, etc. Because more less or not, there are other players who can easily come and disrupt the industry. For example, right now it is being done by the beauty industry, right? Ambanis are entering and they'll obviously discount heavily. So that is one thing that I obviously would say, that be mindful of how would you want to use discounts and offers, right? There are other things that you can do. The perception of a product is much higher than a discount. If you want to do sample, you can do it in a very delightful way. User would be delighted, and you have also sampled your product. And if the product is really good, then obviously the user will come back most likely to your brand. So that is my only submission. Just use, obviously discounts are important, offers are important, but you need to answer for yourself whether it is a strategic growth lever for your business. If the answer is yes, then obviously you need to be having very deep pockets. Otherwise, the answer would mostly be no.
But I think it's nicer to think of it this way, right? Number one, think of your P&L, as Vikas said. Then think of what other brands are doing. Think of your category, as Sudeep said, and go for more value. And on top of that, figure out if it's a strategic lever or not. If it's something you want to do for a long term. So it doesn't become a linear thought process anymore. It's like think of all aspects of it before you take a call. Pratik, your thoughts on this?
While a lot of the levers have been discussed already by Sudeep, Vakul, and Vikas, one thing which I try and do with my team is the mindset of data-driven decision making. When I mean in this context is, first of all, if the brand is more than 1 year old, the D2C or the growth lead will have data on the price elasticity and what's the right tierization of discounts across the portfolio. So instead of watching others and sort of getting a FOMO or missing out kind of a feeling, it's best to look at your own data if the brand exists for X number of months in the market, and run these experiments beforehand, that which part of the portfolio, what will be my average discount for the entire portfolio, which products will be at higher than that, which could be slightly lower than that, and still do a decent daily run rate, etc., etc. So that's something as an expectation setting done better much early before the festive hits you, so that you exactly know doing this will lead to this, doing this will lead to that. That's one. Second is, as a guardrail, it's very important to look at the right CAC for performance marketing. I always, because I feel discount is a lever for ensuring the transaction happens. So when I look at CAC as a metric, I look at the performance marketing spend and the discount. So you call it a loaded CAC or whatever, but that's the mindset with which the performance marketer or the growth lead in the team, whoever is running the show, should be operating as a mindset. Then they know that what they are discounting and what is it leading to, and having a very good view of their D2C PNL. See, a lot of vanity metrics exist, right? But I think one thing that I always ask people is to talk net sales after MRP to GMV, GMV to net sales, right? You can code a very high MRP sales, but then the flow through hasn't happened to the company. I think this education and enrollment with your, if I'm running it or my team member is running it from the beginning of the year, helps in the very outset. And in that way, I'm also empowering them in the day-to-day decision making. The person can wake up today and look at the numbers and change the discount if the outcome is not favorable. So essentially, I'm trying to say that a data-driven framework within the organization, how you look at CAC, how you look at the entire PNL, net sales or GMV, what are you looking at?
Sure.
And then you know that isse niche discount mein ja hi nahi sakta. It's going to take my PNL. So I think that is something that is done much in advance, goes a long way. And second, I think like Sudeep said, coming to the D2C levers, flat discounting days are, I think, behind us, when that was the only way to deliver value.
Right.
I can tell you from my current job experience at House of Masaba, a freebie like a sunglass pouch signed by Masaba Gupta has way higher value in terms of a value addition than a 20% off. A consumer will still pay the MRP and take a sunglass pouch of Masaba, right, as an example. And each brand can figure it out for themselves. Or a lip balm or kind of product which maybe you want to push in the next quarter. So I think Sudeep has already covered that very well. So yeah, those are the 2 cents from my side.
Awesome. That really helps, Pratik. I'm getting a bunch of questions on the side from all the audiences, and I'll jump into them after one last question from my side. This is a question where I'll go slightly broader than festive, but it's a question that when I have talked to D2C brands, has been the one most asked to me. The question is for a young D2C brand, and all of you have built marketing orgs, so it's a very relevant question. What should be the first marketing hire? I have a D2C brand, and it's doing well. Now I'm trying to move out from marketplaces and also build my brand. And I'll tell you the questions asked to me. Should I first hire a performance marketer? Should I first hire a content marketer? I've heard that SEO should start early because it will give me results in the long term. Or should I just start spending today? I'm spending on Google, but the moment I stop spending, the sales go down. So should I be creating a brand? So from all of you, what should be the recommendation for all D2C brands out there on how to think of the one or first 2 hires? Vakul, we'll start with you this time.
See, if the brand is doing well, because that is what you said, a D2C brand doing well, I would say hire someone who has experienced the 0 to 1 and 1 to 10 kind of a journey in a position of a growth head, because then he or she can actually do a few experiments and then figure out whether a SEO guy would work the best, or a performance marketer or a partnership manager would be required. But I would strongly suggest to go for the growth head first before taking any other call.
Nice. Thanks. Pratik?
I would answer this differently. I have had experiences of all kinds, some that have worked, some have not. I've come to a conclusion that my first hire will be someone who has complementary to my skills. Because whoever comes in at that stage practically has to do everything.
Sure.
I'm not going to sugarcoat this in any way. The person may have to write the copy, sign off on the creative, go to the ad manager and do everything. So in my case, what I figured is I would go for somebody who has done a 0 to 1 performance marketing journey, who knows how to run the funnels on Meta and Google. While I myself feel more comfortable leading, executing, and delivering the entire creative side of things, the brand tonality, how to get the assets done, whether I get it done via freelancers or via some other team. And, eventually we will build the larger team after hitting a certain revenue target, right? Together. So the first hire is for me a partner or a tag team member more than a reportee, and has to have complementary skills, which I feel are my weaker suit as a leader.
Got it. Sudeep?
I think a growth guy with a growth mindset.
Sure.
In 0 to 1, you need someone who can hustle along. Like, while you'll need some sort of subject matter skill as well, but I would rate attitude as the biggest one here, right? Someone who can get the hands dirty, someone who can figure out how to get things done, because there'll be a lot to do. You'll have to see if your website is working fine. You'll have to see if your creatives are good, resonating with customers. You understand the customers. You also have to see if your ads are working well, etc. So we need a growth guy, but a growth guy, the attitude has to be, very, very hustle, growth oriented, very, very positive mindset, that someone who can actually make things work, rather than getting fixated on a specific skill set, so to speak, more of a generalist with a good idea of, some things.
Got it. Because you've seen so many brands in so many different stages, what do you think has worked?
Yeah, I think I echo what they said. I think the growth and performance team member is definitely a good start. But I think increasingly what's happening is platforms are getting automated, right? So actually it's getting a lot more easier to set up and run these campaigns. So actually what's become more important today is the creative aspect. Somebody who can own the brand tonality, the brand stories, figuring out what will connect with the consumer, what kind of stories, what kind of content would actually work. So somebody who is really strong on the creative front and possibly be able to create some of the content by themselves as well, right? And in fact, we now have in-house content creators in our teams who can create content on the fly overnight for brands if required, right? And if you can get somebody like that who's a creative / content creator, I think that's a good mix to have, because platforms are going to get more and more automated. What's going to be at the heart of it is the creative and the content that's going to go in there.
Got it. Thank you so much. Because I'm getting so many questions, I'll start throwing some questions at each one of you. The first one actually is very interesting, and I'm sure marketers would love to answer it. The question is, what are your brands doing for this festive season, and what are you most excited about? Sudeep, you going first this time?
Well, I already gave that answer actually.
The context
Specific
packs, yeah.
Specific packs that are festive only, platform specific also. Like, we also go platform specific to say what sells on Flipkart versus what sells on Amazon versus what we can sell on D2C. So we have those specific curated packs. That's a big part of our strategy. Second is the sales planning. When does each platform go on sale, including the D2C specifically, right? Like, because as I was mentioning, we don't want to fight the marketplaces head on.
Right.
So we play it earlier than marketplaces. Right? Our sales will end before marketplace sales and noise start. And then when the marketplace is in full force, then on D2C, we just hunker down and say we'll let it pass. We'll decorate the shop. We will offer a decent discount and a good price and a good value, but we'll not spend too much money during those 10 days when there's a lot of noise in the ecosystem. So those are the key levers essentially.
Pratik, your thing on this?
Yeah, I think pretty much similar lines. Sudeep and me are both fighting in a beauty industry. Highly
Yes, I know that. Yeah.
acquire early is the way to go. There are certain periods I think we know when the marketplace action will pick up. There is in fact another inauspicious period in the country which happens towards the end of this month, where beauty consumption goes down. So we have to sort of plan around that, plan early. Strong offerings on the core portfolio. Top 10 products, which, like I said, get 80% of my revenue. Strong offerings on them. I'm not using the word discount, but offering. So that's the second one. Third is off-platform activities, which can support or fuel D2C growth. It works like magic when your social and influencer fires in tandem with your D2C plans. I mean, the performance marketeers are the happiest when certain influencer campaign or certain funnels dramatically reduce or impact their CAC. So I think many times what happens is I've realized the teams are differently structured in organizations where influencer social is under a different leader or team, and performance works in a different silo. I think it's important. I request everybody to break those silos, because when these three pieces come together,
Sure.
I think the brand wins and everybody wins. So yeah, that's what I'm doing in this period. And once the festive kicks in, funneling existing users, repeat, or like Vikas mentioned, the pools who have shown interest in the brand, only remarketing to them. I think that will be critical in the last phase till Diwali. So yeah.
Thanks, Pratik. That really helps. Akul, Vikas, I'll ask you a different question. The second question that I've got is, what are the top marketing innovations that we should be using in this festive season? What are the new innovations we should adopt and try in this festive season? Vikas, probably starting with you.
Well, like I said at the beginning, I'm not sure this is the time to experiment with things. It's probably a good time to do what has worked for you. I think on the storytelling front, maybe there are still things to do. But in general, if you were to look at what innovations you can test out and try out, I think there's a lot that we are quite bullish about generative AI and how you can actually create content which is more personalized. We're in fact doing a fairly large project to look at more personalized content for one of our brands. So I think figuring out how generative AI can be leveraged for you, especially on the content creation front. And this is not just statics, right? We're also experimenting with personalized videos at scale as well. So I think that is it's still early days, but that's an area to kind of go and dabble around and test out.
I agree, Vikas. I think we are at Razorpay, we're trying to do that a lot and having a lot of fun with it. Even I would, definitely thumbs up to that. I think it's just also a big enabler, right? Suddenly you can do so much more with so much less.
Absolutely.
That's a great place to be. Vakul, what are the innovations? What new things, or what probably tried things that brands haven't tried yet that they
I
should do?
think if you want to do something very wacky and very innovative, I would probably suggest to probably write those concepts really well, test it with your user base before actually executing it for your peak season, right? Very simple old technique that all the FMCG folks or growth folks would be following. Write whatever wacky ideas you have, test it with your users, whichever idea wins. Again, get a prototype ready, test it, and then only launch it. Don't aim for a very innovative idea for the peak season without testing.
Yeah, if I can just add there, right? So one of the things we're doing with one of our brands is actually personalized products for electronics, right? And we are actually launching that in the next 4-5 days. So like
nice.
Vakul said, we're actually going to be launching it now, testing it, and by the time festive comes, we are hoping that we know some learnings, and then you start scaling it up, right? I can't start, doing something at that point. It's too late. So actually, right now it's a tad bit late, but we still have a couple of weeks to test it out and learn from that experience.
I think difficult answer, right? But everyone should figure it out that this is not the time to experiment, not time to test. If you haven't done it yet, don't start now. Go with what's tested, and experiments can be kept for later. One other question that we've got, and I think it's one of the core questions I want to ask everyone. Sudeep, you mentioned about how you're timing with marketplaces. One of the larger questions that we get is in this space, not only in festive but beyond that, what are the strategies to sustainably build a brand for D2C, for your own direct channels, for your own website? Just would want 2 minutes of everyone's knowledge on that. Sudeep, probably starting with you.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting, Dushyant. Like, this is a problem or a question that many D2C brands have, and that's probably because there are different departments in a D2C organization, so to say, right? With different KPIs.
Yeah.
At the core, it's important to realize that, marketplaces are not enemies. They're also selling. They're another sales channel for you. That there's a lot of traffic that's coming in, right? So it's important to embrace that. And with that, the idea becomes that you don't cannibalize sales or fight for sales with marketplaces.
Sure.
It's your product, it's selling on marketplaces, it's selling on offline, it's selling on D2C. These are all different channels, right? So it's important to kind of first have that mindset and then kind of approach it. A lot of times what happens is that you're fighting with marketplaces to kind of get sales on D2C.
Right.
It's a lose-lose situation, right? So what can you do to kind of enable that, support that? The way we look at it here at WOW is that through performance marketing, we drive sales for the product up overall, and then be it D2C, be it marketplaces. Chances are high that people will check your product out on marketplaces if they're checking out on your D2C site. So the way we do it is through a perf marketing, we create demand. That demand comes to D2C and it automatically flows in through marketplaces where we can do a little bit of AMS and other activities to kind of capture that demand.
Sure.
But the core role of a marketeer in a D2C organization is to create demand for the product so that it sells across channels. The idea is not to get traffic only on D2C and look at it in a silo, because that rarely works. There is a lot of aggregation that marketplaces have done. We all shop from an Amazon, say, probably 10, 20 times a year, right? We shop from D2C brands probably once or twice a year, one brand, right? So there's a natural inclination that goes towards aggregation. That's true for every brand, every category, so to speak, right? So this aggregation theory is at play, and hence don't fight the marketplaces. Figure out how you can win together. That'll be, I think.
Very fast. We think of them as complementary, as supportive channels working together. Pratik, your view on this?
I think D2C website in itself and what you do on D2C, I've seen goes a long way in the brand imagery perception in the early years, first 5 years of the journey. Before the brand becomes so big that they exist in offline, become omni-channel, have budgets to do large scale reach frequency campaigns, etc. So what you do and how you communicate on the website is first of all very critical. And I've seen brands do it very well without coming across as salesy or a brand which is on sale every month. And I've seen brands who have not done it so well and have treated it as a revenue challenge only. So coming back to how to build the brand, I think that entire calendar for the entire year needs to be owned and then followed in a certain manner. There are brands which have done sale events which are actually not pitched as sale events, because they don't just go and say a flat X percentage off. They actually deliver more value beyond that. The way your influencers are talking during the sale, the shout outs, the entire banners. So I think that's where the entire leadership team or whoever is the head of the function, they need to have that clarity as to whether it's a sales channel or whether they want to build the brand out there. You can do a pre-launch of a new product launch only on your website, for example. Many brands do that. That also goes a long way in defining the role of your website as the first place of brand interaction and where the brand is expressing itself. So yeah, I've seen multiple examples that tells me that, yeah, I've done well with a proper aligned calendar, using sale events to get new users or spike your traffic. And, sort of the tonality in which you talk. You can definitely build a very strong brand as a young 0 to 1 brand on website itself if you do these things well.
Nice. Thank you so much, Pratik. Vakul, your take on this?
So ours is a very different category, right? We are a very repeat use case business, and more than 90% of our business is through our own app, right? So we are very less dependent on any of the marketplaces. We look at them as a distribution channel, but there is a risk involved because we are a good premium product and we are fresh. And hence the bags that we use are suited for cold food, and meat is best served when it is 0 to 4 degrees, right? And Swiggy's and Zomato's of the world, bags are majorly designed for hot food, right? So it doesn't work well for us. And quality is the most important thing at Licious. There's this saying that we will not serve any of the families if we can't serve our own kids, right? So that is the modus operandi at Licious. So for us, the dependence on marketplaces is very minimal. The core of it is the quality, right? If the quality is delivered as is, then we are happy to partner with them. But if there is any differentiation in the quality, then we are not afraid to pull the plug. But we'll be equal partners to them in solving for the quality differentiation. Right, we look at them as a distribution channel. Right now, obviously, like I said, more than 90% of it is through our own app.
Sure. Vikas, your view on this?
Yeah, I think we work with many brands. Some are digital first D2C brands, some are omni-channel brands, and I think we've rarely seen a D2C only play work, right? Because by itself it will not be profitable or give you the ROI that you would expect as a business. There are some exceptions, like Licious is an exception because it's a super high repeat business,
Right.
and the experience, the product stitched together. But most products on the D2C front, it is a challenge, and it comes back to what Sudeep was saying, that there's an attribution problem, because even if you're running only D2C and you have your products on marketplace, you can't attribute success only to D2C. There are going to be purchases on quick commerce, on marketplace. Today the touch points are too many, right? So you very find it very hard to actually build that attribution model that will work for you to say, where should I spend the money to get the right outcome? So it is a complex web. The way we look at it is follow the money, right? So wherever you're able to get the best ROI and then find the path. It doesn't need to be a 0 to 100 situation, but you may be still getting higher ROI on marketplace, but find a balance where you're able to use multiple channels at the same time, getting some first party data, getting some customer feedback. You're able to talk to those customers. You're able to get inputs on the product more deeply than you would just from Amazon reviews. So I think find that mix, because that's what will help. But D2C by itself is going to be less ROI for most brands. So you have to definitely have marketplace, quick commerce, and other channels in the mix for sure.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks, Vikas. I have more questions, but I'm running out of time now. But I just want to take the last couple of minutes to thank all four of you, Sudeep, Vakul, Vikas, Pratik. Thank you so much for taking our time. I think a lot of D2C brands would have loved to hear so much of marketing experience on one call. Thank you so much for giving us time. Hope all of you have a great festive season, and thank you so much for joining. I'll call Nilanjana or Shubham back. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Dushyant.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was a really insightful conversation, and of course,
Thank you so much, folks.
Thanks, everyone.
nothing like.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So everybody joining us in the audience, guys, thank you so much. If you're interested in giving us product feedback, we're always open to hearing from you folks. So if you're interested, we're dropping a link in the chat right now. If you fill it out, someone will be in touch with you, and you stand a chance to win an exciting gift. So please do participate, and we'd love to hear from you guys. Next up, we're talking about the big bad villain of the D2C world, RTOs. They eat into your profits, they stunt your growth potential, and they haunt your dreams. So RTOs, waste of money, resources, time, everything else. How do we fight it? How do we curb it? And how do we ensure it doesn't make us bankrupt? We'll find out. I'll see you in 5 minutes in the next session.